Okay, so this is a great time for do's and don'ts as we end the year and go into 2026. The first do, I would say, is do plan, do strategic planning. I'm in my strategic planning thinking hat session right now. We've got a session coming up in January. If you connect with me, I'll share that with you. And what that session does is it looks at your annual planning, and it's something that we typically do in marketing for our clients, like our bigger clients. But there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be doing that for your business as well, because planning will help you achieve what you want to do in the year. So that means, what are the key events that you want to go to? What are the key milestones that you want to achieve? What are the things that you want to leave in last year? What is the new direction and customer acquisition that you want to do, etc.? Plan them out at the beginning of the year, review them quarterly, and then check where you get to at the end of the year. Okay, so really important. And then my don't is, don't keep changing what you're doing too fast, because you don't give enough time to see if the idea is working or the strategy is working. So you don't really want to try anything for, less than a couple of weeks and then assess it. It might just be that you need to tweak your strategy a little bit and then continue with it, but don't sort of just throw it out and come with a new one, then throw it out and come with a new one. You'll get quite frustrated that nothing's working, but typically you just need to do some tweaking. Okay, so that's the pass. I think it goes on to Campbell now. Over.
It wasn't. I think I was last but not least, but it doesn't matter. Sorry, Nadine. I had to quickly scramble for the mute button.
Sorry.
I was pacing around. I was pacing around thinking it wasn't me. But no, I'll go next.
It must be the commonality in Campbell, both being your surname and Nadine's. So your name and Nadine's surname, so she must have felt some familiarity to it.
Well,
Jeffrey's been bullied into a corner now. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, I mean, we've got a Welshman, a Scotsman, and an English lady, and an Albanian on a call, so there's a joke in there somewhere. But anyway, in terms of things you should do, think customers at least as much as you think features. So again, especially at this time of year, as Nadine says, we're looking ahead, we're planning what's going to happen next year. To me, particularly in tech-related businesses, we spend far too much time thinking about the product experience and nowhere near enough time thinking about the customer experience. Generally speaking, customer decision-making processes can quite often go the other way. People churn not because there was a lack of a feature that they desperately wanted, but maybe they didn't feel some sense of love, or maybe just things weren't easy enough to use. The overall experience wasn't good enough. So again, happy to dive into that big topic later if you want. And in terms of don't focus too much on brand. I talk to a lot of people about this. I'm a brand strategist. I love brand work. It's really good fun. It's really exciting and challenging and interesting. But a lot of earlier stage startups think that we can fix this if our brand was better. The name, the logo, the visual identity, the color palette, etc. It's like, that's probably not where you want to be spending your efforts. I've talked to founders who've said, I've set 10 grand aside next year to work on branding. It's like, if you've got 10 grand spare, put it into go-to-market, put it into customer acquisition, spend the time and the mental energy on getting the proposition nailed so that what you do resonates immediately with prospects who hit your website or whatever it might be. Don't worry too much about logos and things that aren't really going to move the needle, that are a little bit more on the vanity side. So that's it from me.
Love those. For me, I think one of the most important things is put your product first. Build growth into your product from day one. It's the smartest thing that you'll ever do. If you can find a way to have customers that you acquire work for you and acquire other customers, you're already winning. In terms of don'ts, please remember that one-size playbooks don't actually work. There's a lot of noise out there in terms of chatter and talk on social media about building communities and so on and so forth. just drawing from a recent conversation I had with a young founder who came to me saying she wanted to build a community for a product that she was building. Um, the thing was, she didn't even question whether it was a core growth wedge for her product, and that's something that you need to guard against. Critically evaluate whether some of the things that you hear on social media are actually a fit for your brand or your product that you're building. And if they aren't, just don't do it. Focus on sequence, focus on a natural sequence of growth as opposed to trying to force fit it. That's up for me. That's it for me.
Well, thank you very much to all three of you for your wisdom in the do's and don'ts. I think it's time we move on to some questions, but a quick reset of the conversation before we go on. This is Startup Growth Q&A 167. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have on your growth journey, whether you want to talk about user acquisition, vendor, partner, client acquisition, growth hacks, go-to-market, or general sales, marketing, advertising, and branding stuff. This is the place to be. It's our last Q&A on growth for 2025. We will resume, I believe it will be on the 14th of January when our next growth Q&A is. But for now, we'll be here for the next 45 minutes, taking any questions you may have on growing your business. Best thing to do is to drop your question in the chat. We'll then give you the mic, you introduce yourself, and fire away with your question. For those of you that are on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, just bear in mind that unfortunately, we're unable to monitor your questions there. So if you do have anything to ask, you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's an audio-only call, which means it's easier for you to join from anywhere via any platform or device. Simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Again, the website is startuptoscaleup.club. Scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Growth Q&A 167. Click join. It's a quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find today's Microsoft Teams link. And if you've got questions that are not on growth, please save them for the other remaining sessions we have. So tomorrow we'll have fundraising with investors, and then Friday we'll have UK finances with CFOs and some accountants. But in general, we run 6 regular sessions, and we'll resume with all 6 of those in January. And that is Monday talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, as you can see today, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of each month is UK startup law, and third Friday of each month is UK startup finances. And as I said earlier, you can RSVP to any future session via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. We'll now go on to the first question. I'll put that in the chat, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams, and obviously our panelists here, they can refer to it as we go. So this is from a bootstrapped edtech for upskilling professionals in Cardiff. The situation they're at is that they're struggling to scale beyond initial user base. And then the question goes, our professional upskilling platform has gained some initial traction but struggles to scale. How can we accelerate growth by developing industry-specific course bundles or partnering with employers to incentivize employee enrollments and using alumni testimonials as part of a targeted marketing strategy? Furthermore, how can we implement referral programs or employer-led discounts to drive both B2B and B2C growth? And then she's gone on to say, P.S. A new potential market has opened up for us internationally, and we don't have the capability to pursue it as it seems we may need up to 5 million to succeed. And that's going directly from bootstrapping to Series A. Any suggestions? Okay, let's drop the PS for now. Let's focus on the growth bit here. Maybe we can start this with Jeffrey, and then Nadine, and last but not least, again, Campbell.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for your question. One of the things that occurs to me when I saw your question was, what's your content strategy? And I mean, have you actually identified where you can be different and where the gaps are currently, as a way in which to differentiate yourself in the market? Obviously, when you think of what's going on today in the tech landscape, largely, a lot of the chatter and conversation is largely surrounds AI and how to transform organizations by leveraging it. Are you in the conversation? Is there something that you can offer that is differentiated and easy? I think what I'm trying to get at is one of the best levers for growth is to identify a gap. And if you can't identify a gap, you need to fall back and sort of do a bit of soul searching in terms of what you can actually exploit. I think, from my perspective, if you answer that question, and you find that you can't exploit or can't find a gap, then the question is how you can offer a service that's differentiated around what already exists. For me, when I think of growth for a startup like yourself, it's all about the content that you offer and how you offer it. And if you can answer those questions that I've raised, you potentially have a good chance at growing your company. I'm going to leave it there for now.
Okay, I'm taking this from a kind of more of a less traditional angle, and you're looking to grow. Now, there's definitely a number of businesses out there that can use your services, okay, though we're not exactly sure, but we have a general understanding that this is upskilling. So there are a number of businesses that require that, and there's time that is needed to create those bespoke courses in-house, right? So what you have, which is great, is a platform, an existing platform. So I would lead you towards some white labeling, right? And B2B white labeling. So this allows not just the employees to benefit from the course, but the employers to have a sort of stake in it as well. If they're able to co-brand what you currently have, tweak here and there to make it a course which suits their particular staff, then you are playing a very supportive role, and one that can be scaled quite quickly if you can get it right. And so, you can help them create something that they can use in-house and they can put their name and stamp on. It takes a little bit of the work away from you. It gives a little bit more of power to the employee. So think about that for one. And you talked about going wider. Now, if you want to go wider, but you feel like you can't do that right now, I'm trying to ignore that bit at the end, so it's a bit difficult. But if you want to go wider, partner. So both of my suggestions are you utilize collaborations in order to grow and get more customers and to make your offering more wider and more accessible. So if you're moving to a market where you think you have a large audience, you don't necessarily need to go in there and start from scratch. Who's already in there? As someone that is a contractor, freelancer, fractional person, I'm working in many markets within current existing businesses. So are those people in the new territory that you want to go to that you can leverage in order for them to help you break into those markets at a much more comfortable pace with a less reliance on getting heavy funding? So I'll leave it there, but collaborate to grow, collaborate to scale, and allow others to help your brand be distributed more widely, especially in your area, and then you can go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine. I totally agree with everything you said. There's a couple that you've spared me the need to chuck in there. Likewise, what Jeffrey was saying, and also just what Jeffrey was saying on the do's and don'ts, just very quickly. If somebody comes to you and says they have the blueprint for growth or the toolkit for growth, please just run a mile. One size does not and has not ever fit them all. But yeah, I'll build on some of the things Nadine was just touching on, because I wrote down routes to market as being a critical thing, that partnership play. It's not necessarily channels like resale channels, although it could be, but there are other people in there like influencers, like HR directors and so on. You know, where do those guys live? Anton does these events with fractional chief people officers, fractional HRDs and so on, speaking at these events. I know some groups out there that do that sort of thing. The other thing I wrote down was B2B2C, because you're kind of in that you might not think of yourself as a marketplace, but structurally I would think of you as a marketplace with at least two sides, potentially more. You've got the B2B element that's going at the employer themselves, but you've also got personal professional development potentially as well, with consumers buying their own things, as well as wanting to say to their employer, can you pay for me to go on this course? And then there's other potential third parties that could be sponsors, could be advertisers, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Every side of a platform that you've got, every side of a marketplace that you have, that needs its own proposition. It needs its own problem space. You need to understand what problem you are solving for for that audience, and it needs its own go-to-market. And this is where a lot of founders fall down when they've got a great idea for a 3 or 4-sided marketplace, but they don't really know how to build a proper go-to-market for 2 or 3 of those sides. So again, think about other places. You know, if you're in Cardiff, you should at least, as a minimum, be trying to dominate your own geography where you can literally go and see them. You know, what local chambers of commerce are there? Federation for Small Business, lots and lots of business events out there. And again, on that point, are you looking at small business, medium-sized business, large business? Very, very different in how you approach them. Very, very different in terms of how they buy. You know, are you dealing with a chief people officer in a very large organization, or are you dealing with a 3-day-a-week HR business partner in a sort of SME? Very, very different depending on the size of the business. And finally, it references initial traction, but you fail to scale from there. Please go and talk to those customers if you haven't, and find out where that initial traction came from. What problems were they solving? What was it they recognized in you? Why did they sign up initially? What did they like about it? Et cetera, et cetera. Get the testimonials as well, but also learn from it, because those are the guys who are going to tell you what they like and they don't like about what you do. I shall leave it there.
That is amazing. Thank you very much to all three of you. Really appreciate it. Right, yeah, I think we'll go on to our next question now. I've put that in the chat so that the panelists can refer to it, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams. We're a pre-seed health tech startup in Leicester developing a mental health app specifically for NHS patients who have mild anxiety and depression. Despite a solid technical foundation, our brand feels clinical and impersonal, which deters potential users. How can we create a branding strategy that strikes a balance between clinical credibility and emotional relatability, positioning our app as both a trusted medical tool and an approachable source of support for a diverse UK population? Campbell, you spoke last. Did you have a chance to get a glass of water?
I did indeed, yeah.
Good man. Well, you can go first on this, and then Jeffrey, and last but not least, Nadine, please.
So going first means you're going to shoot from the hip a little bit, which I'll try and do. It's quite interesting that this is very similar to the don't that I put in at the beginning, where it was like, don't focus on brand too much at early stage. So my initial thought was querying that's a problem. It may well be, but it's not often the case that it's actually the brand and the branding that's turning people off. Without being able to see it, I can't tell. I can usually tell pretty quickly. I mean, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can give you some quick first impressions on it as a brand strategist. With developing branding, you know, I use sort of brand archetypes and sort of framing and reframing exercises to sort of take people from framing where you are. You know, what message do you think your brand is conveying? Tone of voice, tone of look, all of those things, and then framing where we want to go, and then how do we bridge that gap? It's a really fun exercise, but my instinct says that might not be the problem. If it is the problem, it might be because you're lacking in warmth and you're lacking in sort of empathy. It's probably more like a tone of voice problem. Proposition and purpose is all kind of wrapped into branding, but I probably would say that the problem's more likely to be that the audience doesn't immediately get what you're about, why you exist, and who you're for. Those things that are a little bit more purpose, a little bit more sort of proposition related. And again, channels to market are potentially of interest here as well. You know, are you trying to find a whole bunch of consumers yourself? Are you going through some parties in the NHS or other bits of healthcare? But yeah, I mean, clinical credibility and emotional relatability. There's some very, very subtle things in here. It's also a crowded space. Mental health is, you know, to my absolute delight, you know, I've been working in sort of startup, scale-up tech for a wee while. It's a very big and growing area. There's nowhere near as much stigma attached to it as there used to be. People openly talk about mental health challenges, which is absolutely fantastic at a sort of human and cultural level. But it is a crowded market space. So it might not be why you get up every day, but again, thinking about who your competitors are, how you're positioned against them, what makes you different, why do you resonate with the target audience more than the next guy, what are the differentiating features and functions and ways that you engage with your customers that others don't. Those would be all the things that I would consider. So I'll leave it there so that the other guys can chip in.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks, Campbell. I think for me, when I look at statements like it doesn't feel like it feels clinical and cold, my natural instinct is to have you think about how you can make it more human and relatable. And that might sound obvious, but when you start to look at it through that lens, the questions that you ask and the answers that come through will be very, very different. I mean, you could throw out very common tropes like lead with empathy and whatnot, but I assume that's something that you're already doing. So I would say, like, if I were thinking about this, go and analyze what apps like Mind and Calm got right. I think just off the top of my head, their language feels like a friend. It's not a clinician. It's warm and encouraging, and it's taken through everything that they do, not just the marketing, but even when you go into the app, you look at the micro interactions that they sort of have developed, even the little encouraging pop-ups, all those things actually matter. I wouldn't focus so much on brand, but I'd focus more on how you're positioned and perceived as a human-led app. In fact, this for me, when I think of this versus some of the recent conversations I've been having about community, this is an app that could highly benefit from building a community. And one of the easier ways to do that these days is building the community off app, community first, app second. Think about how you can do that in a way that is private, intimate, and really, really leverages your understanding or amplifies your understanding and empathy of the problem that most of these users are facing. Happy to brainstorm at a lower level with you offline if you think that it's valuable. I've done this for a previous startup that I worked with, and it's now a 45 million user app. I can't give you deeper insights right now without understanding or seeing what you've done, but it's a problem that has been solved. If this is indeed the problem, there is a way to solve it, and it really is about taking just demonstrating that you understand the issue in a human way. Wherever it's clinical, replaced with human. I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Definitely some great responses so far, and I'm going to build on probably a little bit of both of them. With my last client, 2 years ago who was a clinical brand. They actually did elective surgeries. We worked on a complete rebrand. And as part of the research that we did, when we looked at the branding of clinical base, medical base businesses, private businesses, they were all coming out as basically looking the same. Like you couldn't tell the difference between them. They were all like green and blue, like the typical medical colors with white backgrounds and people in doctor shirts talking to camera. And while those things are really great for that standard credibility in that clinical environment, I think what you're going for isn't that. So that branding differentiation is really important, number one. And number two, it's about the language and approach. So while you do need that validation that you are NHS grade and you're building those trust signals, those are the things that are going to be number one for people to understand, or that will be the final thing they'll check. Are you actually a proper business in medical and you understand what you're doing? This is not just some guys like telling us what to do. No, you've actually got the proper backing, so that's good. So you 100% need that, but I think the rest of it is up to you to change and shape. Jeffrey just mentioned some good brands. I'd also say Liven is a good brand which looks at autistic and neurodiverse thinking. They do music, basically. They just do singing for their ads, and they talk about the symptoms and that people are feeling. And that's more of the side I think you want to go down. It's the feeling, it's the end result that you're going to deliver, and not necessarily looking at a screen or images of an app that's going to get people bought into it. It's that human touch that you need to make yourself feel less clinical and more approachable, and like one of our panelists said, more like talking to a friend. Or a friend that is somebody that understands your problem. You can go further and you can look at things like allowing people to come on for short periods of time so they build habits, and changing the tone of voice for the particular different types of people that you feel. But I think overall our panelists have covered it as well. And the fact that you're in whenever anyone mentions the city that they're in, I'll always advise you to go local first and really lean into that and see what resonates with the people that are around you first before you start to distribute that strategy wider, because you want to figure out whether it works, what doesn't work, and then go forward with the best strategies and approaches. So I think you've got really good advice here, so we wish you lots of luck.
We're on fire today. Thank you very much for that, team. Really appreciate it. I think it's time we go on to another question. Just before that, perhaps a quick reset of the conversation for those, especially for those of you that are on the live streams. This is Startup Growth Q&A. It's our last session on growth for this year, but I believe it's our 167th since we started these sessions. And the idea is quite simple. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top three reasons for that are: one, market fit; two, running out of money; and three, not having the right people. But guess what? When it comes down to it, there's only one thing that matters: you being able to sell to enough people whatever products or services you have in your startup. It's as simple as that. And I've got three amazing people with us today who've been there and done it for more than one startup in the past. And we're taking questions on anything to do with you going from zero to hero, whether it's user, vendor, client, partner acquisition, growth hacks, go to market, or perhaps just general sales, marketing, branding, and advertising. All you have to do is drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, you introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. Now, those of you on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter/X, sorry, unfortunately, we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's an audio-only call, which means you can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device. You've got links to this call on all those live streams, but what you might find it easier is simply visiting our site, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, it's startuptoscaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, find today's session, which is Startup Growth Q&A 167. click join. It's a quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find the link for today's Microsoft Teams call. And yeah, and then once you're here, it will be easier for you to ask us questions. I will read our next question out loud for the live streams, but obviously, again, the team can read that in the chat here and refer to it as they give us their pure gold. So this is a D2C, direct-to-customer sustainable fashion brand near Greater Manchester. They're planning to explore Series A in late 2026. By the way, just before we go forward, you mentioned the previous question, or was it the lady in Cardiff who mentioned about market expansion and needing 5 mil. Join us tomorrow. More than happy to go through it. So again, sorry for the divergence there. So again, the question I'm reading now, it's a D2C sustainable fashion brand near Greater Manchester, planning to explore Series A in late 2026. The situation is that growth is plateauing due to a lack of repeat purchases. The question they have is, our sustainable fashion brand is struggling to grow because repeat purchase rates are low. What strategies, such as creating a tiered loyalty program, offering exclusive early access to new collections, and developing data-driven, personalized re-engagement campaigns, could drive repeat purchases whilst nurturing customer loyalty? Also, any advice on how can we use post-purchase customer feedback to refine our offering and fuel organic growth? Jesus Christ, now why do I just find like you came up with this question based on whatever MBA books you might have read. I'll stop being harsh. Nadine, and then Campbell, and last but not least, Jeffrey, please.
Right. I'm going to continue in my disruptive answers for this whole session, I think. So I'm going to ignore all the traditional stuff, okay? You have got... What was... I don't know if I'm supposed to hear that. Right.
No, you were. Sorry, that was meant to be a positive.
Okay.
We like disruptive. We like disruptive.
Work from me as well.
Oh, thanks, guys. Right. So, okay. There's something called the circular ecosystem, and I think you're going to be able to utilize this because you've mentioned the word sustainable fashion brand. Okay, so I'm going to assume a couple of things because you haven't told me, and you can decide which one do you think will work. Right now, one of the fastest growing markets is the resale market, or the pre-owned, pre-loved market. Okay, and this is great for sustainability. So if you can get involved in that, I think it's really going to help you. We often think of when people buy goods that they're just going to continue to repeat to buy it, but if we're thinking it in a sustainable way, that doesn't make sense. In fact, it's the opposite. Buy something, hold on to it, and don't make as many purchases. So you've got two things happening here. One, you want people to buy more, but two, you want people to be sustainable. So you're going to have to think outside of the box, as it were, to make it work. So a couple of things. One, why not suggest that you can buy back the items, okay? Because, for example, I have some dresses I've worn to like black tie-dos, but they are sitting in my closet. Now, what am I going to do with them? I know I need to keep them because I have an event, but I don't also need them. So if you're able to offer something which allows people to give back some purchases which are still in really good condition, now they have a reason to buy more. It's kind of a bit like a vintage model, but not. It's slightly different to that, but you're in that same realm, okay? And if they're able to do that, now they've got a credit on your system, which they have to spend with you. So you'll have to figure out the logistics of how that works. But if you can get the item back and then you can resell that in a new section, which is your pre-love section, which is probably going to make you a lot of money, now you're onto a winner. So there's that. Also, part of that cycle is if someone has something and they love it, Example again, my sister buys me these sustainable socks. They're really nice, and they come with this like little pin and needle and some thread, and you're supposed to fix it. Now, honestly, I'm not fixing the socks. Don't tell my sister. But if someone else could fix this for me, I would keep them because they're really nice, like quality wool material and stuff. So what about having a service where when you feel like the item is not looking as much as great as it can be, they can send it back in for a repair? You know, think about some additional services that other people aren't offering now, and also it's going to allow you to boost your sustainability credibility along the way. The final thing I'm going to say, and this is kind of like a bit of off the cuff one, I don't know how you decide what's in there. I know there's someone that does, she basically takes items and she sequences them, puts sequins on them, and she turns them into new items, which is amazing. But I don't know how yours is working. Is it you're getting items that are not sold somewhere else and you're selling? I don't know. But if you've got a way that your customers can tell you what they want, that's also nice, because now they are telling you what they want, you're sourcing it, and now there's a reason for them to buy it. That reason to buy is really important for you, coupled with that credibility of sustainability too. So hopefully there's some good ideas for you to work on. But yeah, sounds really exciting. Well done.
Thank you very much, Nadine. I think we said Campbell, didn't we?
You did indeed, Anton, and I was beyond relieved when you said Nadine was going to go first on that one. One of us has on their LinkedIn profile that they have a degree in not just marketing but in fashion, and I'll give you a clue, it's not me. So I was hoping Nadine would go first, that I don't have to stand here in my tracksuit bottom t-shirt and slippers and mansplain fashion to an expert on the call. But look, I mean, Nadine's obviously far more accomplished than I am in this sector, so she's covered a lot more than I would. But the first thing I wrote down was fast versus slow fashion. So I had exactly the same thoughts as Nadine did on that point, that, you know, repeat customers is almost the antithesis of what you're trying to do. But, you know, are there any sort of brand extensions, anything you can do that's not just clothing, that might still be in the lifestyle area? You know, ultimately, you really want to build that brand. Having said that, for some businesses, it's not about brand. For fashion, it very much is about that. You know, even sort of merchandise, you know, swag type things. It might not be appropriate with the sustainable angle, but, you know, a good tote bag can often go a long way. I think Jeffrey might pick up on this as the community expert, so I won't say anything more than part of that branding needs to be you're in a community, you're part of a gang, in a sense. You know, that sort of loyalty to the brand is a very important thing. And then you want to engender referrals and actually bringing people into that community. So what can you do to stimulate those sorts of things? Is there anything that sort of lends itself to subscription type things? Could be socks, who knows? I'm not gonna go into that any further. I also wrote down the sort of, you know, when Nadine was talking about like the idea that you can get people involved in product development, and I want this one, not that, or whatever, is really quite interesting as well. The idea that you can gamify the roadmap. I scribbled down Kickstarter-esque marketing, but that idea that like you can vote for or add on to, like, if enough people sign up to buy you know, a certain volume of X, we will then, you know, do Y as well, or whatever it might be. You know, people voting for which one of these colors would you prefer that we made, etc. So try and, you know, leverage that community, not just for that kind of brand purpose, but also can you get, you know, bring people in and sort of make them part of the future destination of the business, get their feedback, not about what they bought from you, but what else they want to see from you, would be my final thought.
Thank you, Campbell. Jeffrey?
Thanks for those. Those are some really great insights. I actually love D2C brands because I think that when you think about clothing, it's an obvious, repeatable purchase that people make, and so you think that if you use the word sustainable, it's going to actually get people to buy. But I'd have you consider, just by looking at the way you describe your own product, that there needs to be something more than just saying we're a sustainable fashion brand. What I'm trying to get at is two things. One, there's an obvious schism in the way you're describing yourself, because you're saying you're a sustainable fashion brand that's struggling to grow because of repeat purchases. That's an important thing for you to consider. Your real problem may be that people just don't want to buy again so quickly, as opposed to when you think of a fast fashion brand like Shine, which sort of encourages you to buy something every week, much less every month. There could be a price problem, there could be a positioning problem. But ultimately, what I'm trying to get at is fast fashion has a different DNA than sustainable fashion. And you should have baked that into your plans and your expectations. Fast fashion sort of runs on impulse and obsolescence, really. You're running on something more meaningful. So I'd have you think very simply about what 5 things you could do to reinforce your sustainability and how you sort of give back to the planet, people, so on and so forth. This could look like an impact receipt in every package, saying, for example, I saved 284 liters of water with this fashion garment purchase. This could help you sort of like build your brand and reinforce it. You could think of things like add-on services like that you could outsource, like sort of like lifetime repair guarantee, for example. Think of what else could I give you? I mean, I had worked with one fairly recently, like a leaderboard, for example, that you could use to gamify, purchases. So, for example, you could build off the 284 2,800 liters of water saved with a leaderboard in some way. It feels gimmicky, but if you have a tight community, these are things that actually reinforce the good behavior that the community is displaying. I would urge you to check out 2 important competitors and look at the subtleties in how they communicate their sustainability. Look at Patagonia and look at a really interesting material science company called Pangaya. They have a really good blueprint on how they're sort of basically saving the planet and reinforcing sustainability. If your only pillar of marketing is actually sustainable, I'd urge you to find at least 2 more. Look at product and how you can differentiate there for sure, because that's my go-to. Product is your differentiator, and if you can differentiate, find a way to do it in a meaningful way, and find 1 more pillar, because you need 3 pillars to actually grow meaningfully and sustainably. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I'm going to read the next question once you have a glass of water, and then you can go first on this one. It's a similar company to the previous one. This is based in Newcastle. So, based in Newcastle, we're a pre-revenue fashion tech startup providing virtual fitting room technology. Whilst larger players are using similar tech for high-end retailers, our solution is targeting mid-tier brands focused on affordability. How can we build differentiation by emphasizing ease of integration, customer cost savings, and proven reductions in return rates? And what marketing tactics could we employ to highlight these unique selling points effectively? So we can start with Jeffrey, then Nadine, and last but not least, Campbell, please.
Okay, I'm gonna have to shoot off.
Don't worry, Jeffrey. If you want, we can start with somebody else.
Could we? I'm just gonna compose my answer, actually.
That's okay. And I would love it if we can have 1 more question after this, Tim, if that's okay. Who wants to go first? If you want something done right, they say go to a woman, but Campbell wants to go first. Go ahead, Campbell.
Campbell was going to say, give it to Nadine. I will chip in later with my usual blinding glimpses of the obvious, but I'll let Nadine, the expert, speak first.
We are such gentlemen, aren't we? Three blokes here. Nadine?
Thanks, guys. Okay. Right. Okay. No, it's funny. I'm having a little chuckle when my mic is off, actually. Right. Okay. This is an interesting one. It's come up a few times over the last couple of years, actually. I remember going to, was it?
You're absolutely right. And I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Nadine, but I have seen in the last few years quite a few of these companies. But unfortunately, I am not seeing the translation of them in terms of maturity later in the market, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
There's a lot of them that start up and then they disappear. Sorry, go ahead.
No, they do. We had one at the Founder Institute Accelerator. I remember that because I remember going to, I think it was CogX, and seeing Google showcase their tech that wasn't even out yet, which would allow people to do that, but it was probably not for smaller firms. And now I'm seeing, like even today, I saw an ad where a guy was changing his haircut. Now I know this is not exactly fitting room, but it's the same principle of trying something on before you decide to do it. I know Specsavers does it. So it's around, but it's just nailing it for startups, which is a slightly tricky one. So, okay, so while big players are using it, how can we go to mid-tier ones? How can we differentiate, emphasize an ease of integration, customer cost and savings, etc.? Right. Okay, so I think push forwards with it. You know, at the moment, it feels a little bit out of reach. I think it always has done. So why not lead and live on that as sort of like a verification that what they buy is going to be the right thing. You know, you can lean into, less returns. I know that's always a good factor of try before you buy and make sure that it fits. And you can find a way that you can work with these SMEs to make that become something that they promote on their site, so that your tech will confirm that the purchases will fit. Obviously, you'll find a snappy title for that, the verified fit badge or something similar to that. And this whole returns thing is very important, and the sustainability is actually more important than you think. I looked at a survey. It's about in one demographic, it was 83% of people wanted to know the sustainability credentials of the business. So you're leaning into that, which is quite nice, right? And then I would do some social proofing. So you can compete with the bigger guys by using influencers, micro, nano influencers that show them using your tech, right? And talk about the hassle of returning things. And they can demonstrate that your tech is working and it fits exactly. I saw a really good podcast of a guy buying stuff like that's advertised and showing what it really looks like. It was really engaging. I don't even know why I ended up watching it, but there you go. Look, a customer that never planned to watch it was now watching it. So if you can get influencers to do the job of showcasing it for you, then that'll work really well. You're from Newcastle. All I know about Newcastle is you like to go out, okay, and you like to look good, right? That's one of the things that I know about Newcastle. So this is a perfect way to lean into that. And because you guys like to go out, you care about what you wear. So why don't you go and speak to some of the people that are going out and how they decided what they were going to wear, and what their experiences was of buying something for an event, and then did it work, did it not look, that kind of thing. So there's that in terms of customer. And then on the SaaS side, because I think you are going to end up you are a SaaS model, right? So you want to disrupt those high-end players, which are probably paying higher fees to use the tech, by providing something that is almost like a pay as you go or pay as you use, or break it down into a way that is affordable, a quarterly payment plan. Something like that is going to help you to get traction. Also keep things affordable. You can do something localized, as I always say. So, what's happening in Newcastle right now. And then, just see whether you can maybe gather a club of people together that start to use it and build a bit of a community behind it on the SME side, right? So that you can get everyone to start to use it and for it to become a thing that you are pushing and backing. So I'll leave it there. There's a couple of ideas, but yeah, I think we need to see the product working live. Okay, thank you guys. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Like I said, you want a job done well, give it to a woman. Jeffrey.
Okay, so I've had a moment to sort of like look through the question. And I think one of the things that sort of really occurs to me is you're selling, I mean, you have to sell via differentiation. And I'm not going to make a blanket statement. I'm going to actually tell you what I mean. You made a point where you were talking about high-end retailers versus mid-tier brands and so on and so forth. And obviously the margins on which these two entities operate are very, very different. Mid-tier brands tend to operate on really wafer-thin margins. I'm going to say probably as low as 8 to 15%. They can't often, I mean, they can't afford sometimes to experiment with tech. They just need certainty. This is from conversations I've had with some mid-tier brands as well. And the reason I bring that up is I think there's an opportunity to sort of reframe your value proposition if you haven't considered it already. For example, there is a world where you could say pay us 20% of the return savings, nothing upfront, as a business model, to see if your solution actually works. And that sort of takes away any objections that they have at a price point level, because essentially if you say you're minimizing returns, that's a win, because the returns can go up to, I believe, 30 to 40% for mid-tier brands. You need to think about a different way to basically frame your value proposition. And I think that once you start to experiment with some of these ways, you could actually see people removing objections and saying, yep, we will use your solution. Just in terms of how you could emphasize integration, find a way to just couch it in very simple claims. When I say that, I mean do something like that's as simple as plug and play within 48 hours. That just says it's super simple to be integrated. I assume that it is super simple because if you don't nail that onboarding process, you're already dead in the water. Experiment with different value propositions. It's not one size fits all. And most importantly, if I could leave you with one thing, it would be find the number one, number two, and number three reasons for objection and remove them step by step. I'm going to leave you with that for now. Happy to chat offline if you think it's valuable.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I will jump in there. And Nadine, glad to hear your chuckling in the background. I shall try and keep it up. I'm going to just fire a few quick tech things at you because I'm not going to pretend that I'm a fashion expert, but I do know a thing or two about SaaS. I'm glad to see you're putting the SaaS into SaaS as a fashion brand, and I know a thing or two about being a man, which I'll come to in a second as well, and not just for what Anton was saying. Look, with any technology, inertia is a bitch. Change is something people are often resistant to. You have to be 10 times better than what the alternative is, not 10% better, not 20% better. You have to be meaningfully better than what's there. So understanding that differentiation is key. It's non-obvious from what you've said in the question, like, are you trying to be better than other virtual fitting room technology at a lower price point, or who else are you differentiating yourself against? Understanding that competition piece is key. So, who benefits, why do they benefit, who's paying for this, how is your delivery model better than the competition, but really being clear on that, what problem are you solving and so on. But as I say, I've been in SaaS since before it was called SaaS. Back when it was called application service providers. But what are you integrating to, and does there need to be integration there? I say that because that's one of the things that causes people to walk away, because if you've been in tech for long enough, especially if you're in a sort of retail type environment, a large or complex systems environment, integration just says to people, you're going to be here for 6 months plus, and it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds. even if that's not the case. So you're going to have to get around that objection. But also, what are you integrating to and why? You know, are we talking about digital asset management platforms? Are we talking about content management systems? What is the integration piece? What's it trying to do? Is it back office integration? Is it stock? Whatever. And can you get something live that doesn't require that integration? Because getting people to proof of concept and trials as quickly and painfully, or painfully, no, the opposite of painfully, as quickly and free from pain as you possibly can is really, really important. If you need to do complex integration just to get a trial started, then that's potentially a problem. And finally, on men, right? I am one. We're a great audience for this sort of thing because we're just bloody useless, right? If we go into an actual shop, then we can't be bothered trying things on. So we just go, yeah, I'm usually an extra large. I'll just grab an extra large and I'll stick that in the back. I'll pay for it and off we go. Or if we buy things online and it doesn't fit us, then it just goes. I don't know how to return things. Bag, box, what? No, not going to happen. So assuming I'm not atypical, and I don't think I'm atypical, then I have a drawer full of stuff that doesn't fit me, that I've said to myself, do you know what? If I lose 5 kilograms, I'll get into that top and it's going to look good. Sometimes I even lose the weight, but I never remember that the top's there. So I think there's plenty of scope if you are selling to men as part of your customers. You can have humor with these things. You can have a bit of fun with it. I want to see some playfulness in the branding and some of the messaging, a little bit of rebel archetype, as we call it, into the brand strategy world. Poking fun at men and saying, hey, you should use this, we'll save you a fortune, etc., etc. I think there's a lot you could do in there, and I shall leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much, all three of you, team. I know this is unfair because we're 5 minutes over the line, but being our last one for 2025, Jeffrey has said yes. Nadine and Campbell, are we okay if we go for one more question, please?
Go for it.
Yes.
Nadine? Perfect. Thank you very much. One last question. This is the last one in 2025. Another D2C, so this is direct to consumer sustainable food packaging. They're a university team in the north of England. They're at seed stage. Their situation is low awareness amongst potential customers. Our sustainable food packaging solution lacks visibility amongst potential D2C customers, despite its innovative material. How can we grow by creating awareness campaigns that highlight our academic credentials, partnering with sustainable food brands to showcase real-world applications and leveraging eco-certifications? Additionally, how can we track and optimize the impact of these efforts on both awareness and adoption? Go to every food bank in the north of England to start with. Go to every supermarket that tries to have a local sort of sustainable theme to what they do. And being at a university, because otherwise it would be a nightmare, but being at a university, you can also start doing two things. One, find a way to force your students to get involved in this, and two, the local authority. But for that, maybe we can start with Campbell, then Jeffrey, and last but not least, Nadine.
Sure, thank you, Anton. Well, look, the first thing I wrote down was this is not the first time we've heard sustainability in today's session, which is very interesting, but it's also potentially problematic because I think a lot of consumers and businesses have a little bit of ESG type fatigue, where we have a fear that a lot of people are paying lip service to a lot of this stuff and just saying, if I just put sustainable in front of it, then people will flock to me and they will buy it. And unfortunately, it is not that simple. I have a law of extraneous language which says, would saying the opposite make you sound like a lunatic? And if you were saying we've got highly unsustainable, unrecyclable, planet-destroying food packaging, you're going to sound like a maniac. As a consumer, my minimum expectation these days is that a lot of this stuff in the consumer space is sustainable, because why on earth would you start a business that wasn't, and why on earth wouldn't you have been forced to be more sustainable if you're a long-standing business? So the bar is quite high for trying to grab somebody's attention. And I'm going to repeat the point I made earlier, not just because that's a lazy thing to do, but like there is food packaging out there, quite obviously. How are you 10 times better? Not like 10% better. How are you meaningfully a superior solution to what's already out there? And who is the competition? You know, are we genuinely a consumer brand? Is this like Tupperware? Is this for me to store my own storage? What's stopping me from, I've got the same Lakeland tubs in my cupboard that I've had for 10, 20 years. You know, do I need to, is the cost of me replacing what's there, does that ruin all of my sustainability and environmental creds, because the cost to produce the new thing has a significantly higher carbon footprint than just continuing to use the old thing? There's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to overcome here. And that innovative material, I'm intrigued because I'm an old product guy and I find this sort of stuff fascinating. But like, who are your channels to market as well? You know, you're trying to get into, I know you're D2C, but, or alternative routes to market, other sides of marketplace. There's lots of things I would be encouraging you to develop in there. Again, local partnerships, communities, always key. If you can't sell to the people right in front of you, you're probably not going to be able to sell to anybody else. But like getting the messaging right on that innovative material and why that matters can be that can be pretty tough without getting into a really geeky space. And typically in a D2C environment, you really don't want to be having to spend all your time explaining what the damn thing is, rather than here's the problem, what are the benefits? And I think if you can't be really punchy on the problem space and therefore the solution and the benefits and why changing is a good and viable thing to do that will benefit the individual as well as benefit the environment, then it's going to be pretty tough if you're just trying to have a my material's better than the other guy's material conversation. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Just to follow on from some of the things that were said, I think what occurs to me personally is when I look at your question, you've already sort of pre-decided how you want to grow. When you say things like, we want to grow by creating an awareness campaign that highlights our academic credentials, partnering with sustainable food brands to showcase real-world applications, et cetera, et cetera. Can I just say, step back and ask yourself, is this the most viable way for you to stand out in an already crowded marketplace? Every sustainable brand has some sort of claim about how they are, how they have people working for them that have great academic credentials, whether that's material science or other things. There's a lot of tracking in data, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there is fatigue, to be fair, which I think someone mentioned, in this way of having the sustainability conversation. So I would say think of a way to stand out, and think of a way to say this in a very, very different way that's slightly less pressurizing and more fun. That might really, really help you. The second thing I would say is, this is about, is everything that you do, all the business that you're conducting, is it high trust business? And one of the ways to get trust is to have it transferred or conferred on you from other people. One of the ways to do that is to go through the accreditation process on marketplaces like Circulate or Pack Health. There's a bunch of them out there which really, really focus on sustainable products. FAIR, I think that's a large one as well. And once you go through that process, you essentially put yourself in a captive audience that's really, really looking for brands like yours. And I think that definitely confers some trust on you. Second thing you could do is partner with people at events. And events are, sustainability is a highly active community. No matter which city you live in or country you come from, there's a lot of conversations and events around sustainability. and you should be actively participating, potentially with a brand that could use your solution in some co-marketing, in some sort of co-marketing that could actually confer some of the trust that they already have in the market, onto you. I would say those are the two things for me. It would really be valuable for you to really reconsider if these are the strongest. This is the strongest conversation or the most differentiated conversation you could have with your customers.
Some great advice there. I like to turn some things on their head when it comes to traction. I am a strong believer in the crowd can influence the few. So if you want to focus on D2C, okay, and they are probably already have a supply chain distribution for their to purchasing, wholesaling of these items. But what we need to do is change their minds in the current items that they are buying to switch to yours. And I agree with Jeffrey. Maybe there's a different approach. Like I said, this is a many to one approach, and think away from what happens, sort of throwing it in the bin, to changing your focus to like more of an extended life, like second life almost. So what can we do with the product after? Now, as a parent, I get non-stop requests for recycling for school. Okay, this is a huge group of people that are probably going to have children that are going to feel better if they don't just chuck it in the bin. And then there's those that just chuck recycling in the bin anyway. So what we want to do is help these people to make it easier by showing them what can happen with the products. Think about those type of people that grow food on their kitchen shelf. Now, I don't know what kind of packaging you're talking about, okay? But what we want to be able to do is demonstrate what we can do with the packaging for the second time. Right? So it needs to be easy to do this. We need to easily show people, actually, you can turn this into your basil herb farm for your windowsill, and here's how you do it. We want to go more that way, so people feel like they're able to do something that's within their grasp. A lot of these like carbon offsetting and these big sustainability pledges feel like the individual can't do much to make a difference. But this allows the individual to make that difference. And if enough people start saying that they love this, you will start to influence the D2Cs to be able to decide to purchase it. There's also that ease of buying situation. I think it's much easier to buy 250 plastic tubs or bags and get them shipped overnight. I think a lot of sustainable packaging often comes in smaller quantities and it's harder to get. So how are you addressing that problem? Yeah, for sure. And then switching back to if you can prove that your packaging reduces waste at a certain percentage, that's a really nice mission to go after. It feels attainable. So think about what your mission or vision can be around that and how you can work towards it and how individuals can play a part of it, how businesses can play a part of it. It's that whole wanting to be a B Corp. Once you get that B Corp status, you are seen as doing above and beyond. And that's the kind of realm you want to live in. The above and beyond is not just waste, it's second life. And what can we do with these packaging? How can we make it great for our environment second time round? And just switch your mindset a little bit and work from a demand side, from the customer, not necessarily just going to the D2Cs. So I'll leave it there because we're way over. But you can do something here, just keep going.
Huge thanks, team. Really appreciate your time. Have we got time for some quick parting words? Nadine, did you get a chance to get some water?
Me? Do I need water?
No, I'm just joking, as in because you just spoken. I wanted to I wanted to let you go first. You're the lady of the house, and I think especially for being a bit not very gentlemanly of us today, we kept going to you first. So I thought at least you can do. Sorry, at least the least we can do is let you go home first. So if you would like to give us your parting words, that would be great. Absolutely. And then Jeffrey, and last but not least, Campbell, please.
Okay, so first I'm going to say thank you, Anton, for having me. It's always nice to be here. I'm really happy to be in the final session of the year, and I really hope that we have given everyone here some
God, are we that bad?
What?
You said that you're really happy to be on the final session.
No, I mean, like, I'm happy to be part of your... No, what I mean is, look, I'm happy to be part of the final session, okay? I really do enjoy giving advice to founders, and so I'm happy to be here. Let's say it like that. Okay, so I'm ending the year off on a high because I think this has been a really nice panel today and some really, really good questions. I'm just going to continue in the theme that I've been on. Think disruptive. The marketplace is busy. The UK market is what I call it tight. I'm calling it tight right now because it's hard work. However, if you can start to think differently and try to do things from a slightly different viewpoint angle, you may find that is one, more exciting and fun for you because you're doing something completely new and not trying to follow a blueprint that doesn't work for you. And two, you might make some traction and create your own market, which you can then grow and scale over time. So I encourage everyone to, yes, think about the traditional and the fundamentals. I would absolutely never ignore those. But when you can have a chance to do something differently and disrupt the industry, I would say go for it. Because the best thing that can happen is people notice you, and then now you can build from that platform going forward. So I wish you a wonderful break over Christmas. Please have a break and get ready to come back in 2026 ready to go. So good luck and have a nice rest, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadine. You've been amazing. You've been great support, and we absolutely loved having you here. Hopefully, we'll see you again in the new year. You have a great Christmas. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I understand you may have some availability for some fractional and other work starting in the new year. So I would like to encourage anyone who needs somebody like yourself to get moving quickly. Otherwise, you won't be available for too long. Thank you. I think we said Jeffrey next.
Okay. I mean, I think we've had some really good conversations today. Like Nadine said, the questions have been really good, and I've actually enjoyed answering some of these B2C and B2C focused, helping these B2C focused startups. I think the key theme really, when I think about how 2025 has been, is how do you differentiate? Thinking different is an extremely courageous act. It forces you to be really, really uncomfortable, but it also leads to really good insights, really great questions asked, and even better solutions sometimes. And while we're sort of rushing around trying to catch up with the people that are already in the market, sometimes the best growth lever is to actually find the gap and be different, so that you stand out and you can actually use that to catapult yourself into sustainable growth. The second thing I would say is think product before you scale. Marketing is an important pillar, but it really is about the product or service that you offer, and does it really offer value? And the third thing that I would say is don't believe the hype and the easy answers online. Growth is an extremely hard thing, but if you do the work in a systematic way, traction does come. So I would say validate your assumptions maniacally, remove objections to purchase wherever you can systematically, and always listen before you're selling. I hope you have an extremely good Christmas break, and I wish you all the best in 2026.
And last and very probably least,
I'm really sorry to interrupt. Campbell, can I interrupt? I'm really sorry. Me and my freaking fat thumbs. I just wanted to thank Jeffrey as well for your support, Jeffrey. Really appreciated. You have a great Christmas and a great break. And again, if anybody wants to reach out to Jeffrey, I'm not sure how much availability you have, but I'm sure they can find value. Sorry, Campbell.
Always happy to help.
Oh, I thought you were about to cut me off at the knees there, Anton, and say we haven't got time for you. You were about to hear a grown man cry. But yeah, some great thoughts to conclude from Nadine and Jeffrey. Thank you for them. A couple of things from me. Jeffrey put in the note something that I was going to bring up, which is that go-to-market piece again. I know a company who's in the sustainable packaging space where it's really niche. I won't bore you with it. It relates to packaging for palletized stuff. And they've got, in one specific industry, they have 40 potential customers. So what they do is almost by definitional account-based marketing coming out of the box. They're not trying to get 40 leads a week. They're trying to get, one deal a quarter. So if you can tighten up on that go-to-market and find channels to market and other alternate routes to market, partnerships, alliances, communities, whatever it might be, then if there's some way that you can stop trying to find hundreds and thousands of end users and try and get, maybe 10 upstream partners, then that can always be good. Another thing not enough people focus on as businesses scale and grow is culture. Because that stuff really, really matters to not just customers and would-be customers, but to employees and would-be employees. It's amazing how many startup founders get so focused on the go-to-market and the product side of things, they forget that, you know what, if you've just got that VC Series A over the line, you're going to be hiring a whole bunch of people, so you've got to get that stuff right. And I talk a lot about customer experience, product experience, and employee experience. The kind of combination of those three things, people are buying into that a lot more than you think. It's not just about the product, the customer experience and the employee experience, particularly in B2B, which is my heartland. That stuff really, really matters. But culture is key across all sectors. So that's it from me. So again, it's a delight taking part in these things. I could talk shop all day. As I'm sure is self-evident just from listening to me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I am more than happy to have a, virtual coffee and a chat and throw some ideas around with any of you out there. As it happens, I do have a little bit of capacity coming up in January. As the fractional guys know, the kind of nature of fractional work is it's usually a lot of heavy lifting and then it kind of tapers down a little bit. I've got a client tapering down a little bit. So yes, I do have a little bit of capacity in the new year too. So it would be lovely to talk to any of you in 2026. Have a great Christmas break and hopefully you'll get a mental as well as physical rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Campbell. And although you've only, I believe this is your second session with us, you've been just as valuable and we really appreciate your help. May you have a great Christmas, and as you yourself put it, if anybody wants to reach out to Campbell, if you need any help on a fractional basis, please do that. As he just said, he's got some availability starting from January. Now, I am first and foremost sorry to have kept you 26 minutes over the line, panelists. Apologies for that. Nevertheless, this has been our last session in 2025 and perhaps one of the best or one of the most exciting ones. So I really appreciate all three of you for your help today. Just before my parting words, a couple of quick things. Number one, as I said, this is our last growth Q&A. We've only got 2 more Q&As left this year. Tomorrow, fundraising with investors, and Friday, finances with some CFOs and accountants. So please feel free to join those. But in general, we run 6 regular sessions: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of each month is UK startup law, and third Friday of each month is UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. They're all available on our site, startuptoscaleup.club. Again, it's startuptoscaleup.club. If you go there, you can register and RSVP to any future session by clicking join under each or your preferred Q&A, that is. We also have a great community on WhatsApp with various groups for you to connect with fellow founders, investors, operators, and of course our second to none panelists / mentors. I've got a link in the chat here for the growth WhatsApp group that you can join. And in terms of those of you that are on the live streams, whether you followed us today via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn or Twitter/X, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So next time, join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can tune in and join us via any platform or device, and it doesn't matter whether you're walking your dog in Surrey, or perhaps working from a shared office in Shoreditch, or cooking lunch in Bristol, or maybe having lunch in Liverpool, or changing baby nappies in Edinburgh. You can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device, despite what you're doing. My parting words, just remember that the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, have a very Merry Christmas. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully some of you will also join us tomorrow for Startup Fundraising Q&A at 12 to 1 p.m. Thank you, and God bless.
Thanks, everybody.